Hello, story lovers. Miley Glynn was a single parent who worked tirelessly to provide for her twins, Sean and Molly. It was difficult to provide for her 8-year-olds and work full-time, but Miley felt that they were worth it. But Miley was glad she wasn't by herself. She had the twins' teacher, Miss Smith. She was always trying her best to help out and was a stellar teacher. But Miley didn't know about something she was hiding. Before we move on, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notifications bell for new amazing videos. Miss Smith was a devoted teacher that impressed all the parents with how good she was with their kids. Millie could see that it was a genuine pleasure for Miss Smith to be teaching her kids. But she could have never imagined what was truly going on behind closed doors. She had something to hide, and they would soon find out. The school was almost on summer break, and everyone was excited, both students and teachers alike. Millie had to drop off her kids before she went to work. She saw the smiles on her children's faces as they hopped along to the gate. They were growing up fast. Millie got to work thinking that it was going to be an ordinary day just like any other, but that wasn't going to happen. While at work, Millie would often think about what her children would be doing at that moment, probably learning something important that would come in handy in their path of education. She was never worried about what hands she'd left them in, but she couldn't have known what she would soon find out about her favorite teacher. Soon, everything would be out in the open. What the twins were actually learning while Millie was at work was the tutors. What was different about Miss Smith was her attitude. She must have been the most caring teacher at the school. Miss Smith was loved by all. The staff, kids, and parents loved her. So when her secret came out, everyone was extremely surprised with what the cop uncovered when he was asked to look in her trunk. After working hard for the day, Millie rushed back to school to pick up her children. She took the highway to get there on time. She couldn't wait to see their beaming smiles. But when she finally arrived back at the school, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There had to be a mistake, right? Millie noticed that Ms. Smith's car had a note on it. She was sure that the car was hers. But what was written on it? Millie got outside her vehicle and walked toward the car. When she read it, she knew what she had to do. She took out her phone and her shaky hands and called 911. While this was happening, Miss Smith was wrapping up her classes for the day. She made herself coffee and sat back at her desk, a smile on her face. Then she heard a knock on her door. "Miss Smith, are you there?" a coworker said. Before she could even utter a word, the door swung open as her coworker rushed into the room. Something wasn't right. The coworker told her there was a police officer just behind her in the hallway. Miss Smith felt a lump form in her throat almost instantly. What was wrong? She ran out to meet the officer, but was met with even more concern as she noticed that her boyfriend was standing next to the officer. What had happened, and why was Lewis involved? With a lump in her throat, Miss Smith asked her boyfriend Lewis what was wrong, but he just looked at the floor, avoiding all eye contact with the worried teacher. "Hi, Miss Smith," the police officer said, his tone authoritative. "I'm Officer Jones." Miss Smith looked at the officer with fear in her eyes. She had no idea that in just 15 minutes her entire world would be turned upside down. Officer Jones asked Miss Smith if she had her car keys, which stumped Miss Smith even more. She retrieved them from her designer handbag and dangled them in front of the officer. "Good, now follow me into the parking lot," Officer Jones commanded Miss Smith. The two went out to the front by her car, her boyfriend keeping his distance. She didn't understand. Was her license expired? While out in the parking lot, Officer Jones told Miss Smith his police dog had sensed something strange near her car, which meant he had to check her trunk. Nothing made sense to Miss Smith anymore, but in a few minutes everything would fall into place and Miss Smith would learn the truth surrounding her car and the police officer. Miss Smith felt that she was going to get a ticket or worse. She could see it in the officer's piercing eyes, his wide imposing stance, and his authoritative tone. But she couldn't understand what had been wrong. There was nothing more in the car than just a few empty water bottles and a fluffy blanket, right? Miss Smith gave the police officer permission to unlock the car and took a look inside. Within a matter of seconds, she watched the officer step inside her car and she prepared for the worst. But she had no idea what was about to happen next. Miss Smith didn't know what to expect as she watched the police officer look around in her trunk. With every move the officer made, Miss Smith's heartbeat skipped a beat. Then suddenly her boyfriend Lewis looked at Miss Smith with his bright blue eyes and pulled her her in close. This brought some relief and comfort to the worried teacher. She so badly wanted him to save her from whatever trouble was ahead, but this was going to be far from easy. Miss Smith could feel tears well up in her eyes and an uneasy feeling in the pit of her stomach as she proclaimed her innocence to her boyfriend. But then suddenly the officer, who was looking through Miss Smith's trunk, let out a gasp and he stumbled back. What had he found? Just as Miss Smith was about to race over to her trunk to see what was inside, suddenly her boyfriend pulled her back. "What's wrong?" she asked, turning to face him. She saw fear in his eyes, and she felt a shiver up her spine. What her boyfriend was about to do was going to change her life forever. Miss Smith saw the officer pull out something from the trunk, saying, "That's what I thought." She couldn't see what it was, but the next thing that happened made her fear the worst. "You're going to do life for this," said the officer, as he made Lewis drop to his knees and put his hands behind his back. Then he handcuffed them. Miss Smith's worry was mounting by the second. The officer then asked her to stand in front of Lewis as he went back to the patrol car to get his evidence camera. Reluctantly, she complied. And then her world was turned upside down. Miss Smith darted from her boyfriend to the officer and back. Then she watched as Lewis pulled his hands out from behind him and placed them in front of her, holding a ring. She gasped and brought her hands to her face. The officer who was filming everything started laughing. This had all been a ruse. Miss Smith's boyfriend got down on one knee and asked the question that all women long to be asked. "My love, will you marry me?" he asked while his Hollywood smile sparked in the light. He pulled out a beautiful ring and tears of happiness streamed down Miss Smith's face. "Yes," she screamed. She hugged her boyfriend, now fiancé, but Miss Smith was confused. Was there even anything in the trunk? While the newly engaged couple hugged and embraced each other, Officer Jones and Millie, who had been part of this incredible plan all along, clapped for the happy couple. But Millie knew she had to tell Miss Smith the truth. She pulled her aside and revealed everything. You see, when Millie arrived at the school earlier in the day, she saw a note on Miss Smith's car that stopped her cold. It put things totally in perspective. It made such an impact that she called up Miss Smith's boyfriend and told him of her plan. But what did this note say exactly? The note said, "Love and live every day like it's your last," and it was a motto Millie lived by. She knew that Miss Smith and her boyfriend were meant to be. They just needed a bit of pushing, that's all. Once Miss Smith's boyfriend agreed to propose, Millie then asked a friend on the force to join in on this elaborate plan. And it was safe to say this plan surely worked. Did you like the story? Check out our channel for more.